Hello, my name's Lorene. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. I'm going to do some mad minutes over the book, The Minted by Will McClelland. And this is a Canadian book. Who's the press? It doesn't say, and I've only got one hand, so I can't open the book very easily. So what we're encountering is two main protagonists. We've got the Moose, who's the scourge of Canada, and we have got Nathaniel, who is sort of his, not really his accomplice, but sort of wingman or something like that. And he's taking witness, I would say, to some pretty horrific events that are supposed to happen in Canada in the year 2031. The Moose's main sidekick is a woman called Marie Brûlé, which in French means fire, which is ironic. We will discover that later. I should add that the moose is a moose. It is a four-legged, hairy, stinky animal. And the book is organized into four sections, each one referenced to a different stomach of a moose. A moose has four stomachs, and it is a ruminant. Okay, so I'm not sure where this is going to take us. I think it's going to be quite a ride, and I look forward to sharing more with you. So far, so good. Bye-bye. Okay, minute 2 of The Minted. 32 pages in, and I'm still not 100% sure what's happened. We start the story with Nicholas. He's gone up north. He's going to go on a camping trip, and he's planning to commit suicide and doesn't want to be discovered particularly soon. So he's decided to go somewhere where it's just not going to be easily discovered, and that's where he encounters Ollie the moose. And the moose seems to have just appeared from nowhere without any sound. So that's a bit of, and they start to have a conversation, and in the end, Nicholas abandons his camping and suicide plans and gets on the back of Ollie. We also encounter Marie Brûlé, who is on the run from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who are not mounted. They're running, but they seem to have quite a large number of them, and they're chasing her across the interprovincial bridge between Ontario and Quebec, and oops, I can't end it there. I can't end it there. It was a cliffhanger, literally. She's hanging on the end of a bridge. She makes it to Mont Bleu. I will tell you the rest next time. Hi again. I'm just back from the gym, so sorry, but I just read another 15 pages, and I'm not 100% sure what I'm reading. Nathaniel and the moose, Ollie, had gone off together, and at the same time we've got the journal of, I believe, Ollie, that implies that he has been killed and has been reborn as another moose. And then we've got Marianne Brûlé's journals, where she has been caught by the RCMP and is in some kind of a prison, but seems to also be at the Mint. And in the one section of the Mint, there are a whole bunch of extinct, people think extinct animals who are working to make the money, the coins and so forth of the Canadian Royal Mint. And she seems to be a being that is full of computer components, and there's something called elk waves, which has to be something like an AM FM kind of a wave and radio transmitter thing. I'm confused. I'm not sure who's dead, who's reborn, and who's in prison. Yeah, anyways, it's interesting. It's certainly poetic. Okay, once again, I'm in the middle of deep confusion. One of the things I think this book reminds me of is some of the poetry that we get where an individual has taken multiple adjectives and use them to describe, for instance, running water and trembling, shaking, raking, sparkling, crashing, you know, and that sort of thing. And I feel like the author has done that a little bit, but occasionally interspersed it with action lines. And so, you know, paragraph describing the hinterland, for instance, can have many, many descriptors. And so we know we're in the Barrens, but also the moose travels to downtown Ottawa, which has many descriptors of concrete. At the moment, the moose has been reborn, and Marie Brûlé, I think Marianne Brûlé, I think I was wrong about that, she is in captivity, and she is a woman of many parts, literally, because she has components of computers and transmitters and metal limbs and so on, and she's really having a rough time of it. We're beginning to understand the role of the Mint, the Canadian Mint, and two characters that I really couldn't figure out at first I'll tell you about next time. The two characters that have been sort of confusing for me are Gu and, I don't know how to pronounce it, Guare, I think, Guar. Anyhow, they are actually the emblems on our coat of arms, Canadian coat of arms. So one's a lion and one's a unicorn. And the unicorn is kind of just, has been reincarnated so many times that petering on brain dead, I think. And the lion is... definitely a predator, remains a predator. And so we've now got our national emblem in the storyline. I would not have caught that. I wish that had been explained a little bit sooner. So not only does this book have a lot of poetry in it, it has a lot of references to Canadian history and iconography. And so it's a little bit, you gotta be in the know to know. Anyway, I'm still enjoying it, still wackadoodle. I'm going to read some passages to you just to give you a sense of what the book contains. Canadians believe that when it comes to felling trees into water, the beaver never misses. This is true. The beaver's a dead shot. But trees growing near water slope towards it, and the growth of the branches is always greatest in the direction of open water. The point is, having an advantage doesn't mean you're a genius. It means you're Canadian. And all right, the moose is the sort of the both the hero and the anti-hero in this book. So the moose say that we were the first and last victims of the fur craze, and now we are forgotten, while Canada and the beaver gaze upon one another in silent, distant admiration, like two serial killers, each greatly intrigued by the other's style and achievement. Argent, the lion from the, I guess actually, I wonder if it has something to do with the Hudson's Bay symbol, I'm not sure. But he's the one who was convinced the beaver to give away his soul in the first minting of money, and that's how this whole story started. So in terms of the poetry, let me see, where am I? All right, the moose is on the train, and he's resurrected, and this is his experience. In between cities, especially at slow speeds, I can smell one rail tie from the next, the creosote levels varying slightly in each. I find these awful piano keys sound their notes most loudly when flung across a river or canal. The cool air seems to sharpen their carcinogenic personalities, makes them scream in my nostrils like the tar cologne every Canadian building wears. Truly, though, there's nothing musical about them. They're not piano keys. They're just the stitches that hold this awful maple monster together. Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. He's taking poetic pieces and is adding action between them. Ta-da! Well, my goodness, what a book. I'm not 100% sure what I was reading, but it was quite a ride. Finally finished it. It's actually a very quick book, and I think that breaking it up into these little minted moments, as it were, maybe did it a bit of a disservice in that I think this is a real roller coaster kind of spiral, and sticking with it. It's a very short book. It probably goes a bit better. I think breaking it up and thinking about it might actually do you a bit of harm. It's 178 pages, and don't think there's really a plot. I think it's more a critique of Canadian politics. I think knowing a little bit about Canadian history will make a difference. There are reference points to the Métis, or some of the government moments, or the National Gallery, or the history of coins and the history of the flag, and Don Cherry. Yeah, I think that will help if you have a little bit of an overview of the last 400 years. The Moose is supposed to be this sort of major terrorist, and in his way he is. I think he's more of an impresario in the sense that he seems pretty good at having other animals create the mayhem, as well as letting giving autonomy to the rebels in order that they come up with their own method as to how to have a rebellion. Nobody is really whom they see. There's a lot of symbolism in here, or you can assume there's a lot of symbolism in here. I'm making an assumption. And I think there are enough references that the on footnotes and so on that the author makes that it's fair to say that some of the references are, or the symbolisms are fairly straight ahead, like the national, or the provincial flower of Newfoundland is kind of straight ahead. Some of the animals are straight ahead. The fox is representing cunning, and the beaver industry, things like that are fairly straight ahead. Others are a little harder to nail down. And I think he's done a little bit of poetic juggling with rabbits or snakes, that sort of thing. The actual revolution is not very well organized and fairly short-lived. I think it's interesting reading this book when I am, because we've just finished the crazy shit that happened in Ottawa just a few months ago, and this was written prior to that, I believe. Yeah. And also, we're going through the information on, this was written in 2016. We're also going through the current events of the war in Ukraine and the economics behind that. There are certainly many references to the destruction of the North in terms of Canada's assumption that the resources of the North are there to be plundered and used and abused. And that's kind of what we're seeing in the Ukraine too, with respect to the gas and policies of different nations. And so it's not just a Canadian political commentary, it's also sort of an international commentary. And then I guess part of that is because patterns repeat. Greed and lack of resonance with the natural world just continues to resonate over time and time again. So what do I think of this book? I think it's going to have a niche readership. I think you need to know a little bit about Canadian history, as I said. I think you have to enjoy prose poetry. I think a chaotic plot line is also there. And being sort of on tenterhooks, much like the narrator, most of the time in terms of being able, to understand what's going on. If you're okay with that kind of mayhem and lack of resolution as you go along, you will enjoy this book. I think it's really a treat in its way. It's out of the ordinary. It's challenging. I think you will not forget it for a while. There's parts of it that are just going to keep bubbling up. And I think, the next time you see a statue of a moose somewhere in, Little Rock, Canada or whatever, you're going to resonate with some of the iconography that we see as tourists, particularly if you're in the country or the cities where the moose and the caribou and the elk all kind of migrate through. Like Canadian geese, I'm surprised we're not part of this. Canadian geese seem to be everywhere. They would have been great terrorists. The beaver plays a role. So, I recommend this book, but with some caveats. And I think you have to be in a frame of mind that is just kind of open and accepting and just willing to go with the flow in order to enjoy this. Plot and character driven? No. Okay, so that's it for me and the mad minutes for the Minted. I'll see you next week. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true. Bye-bye for now.